Hello and welcome to Digital Notepad, our YouTube channel. This is Sonia. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share for more educational and informative videos. Stay tuned. Hello friends, we are in the beginning of quarter 4 of 2020 and very soon we'll be finishing a decade. I know since this 2020 started, coronavirus has disrupted our life. We all are experiencing confusions, uncertainty in many ways. We had our plan for 2020 and had to cancel most of them. News channels are flooded with COVID data and upcoming vaccines. I'm sure this phase of life we can never forget. Suddenly, this thought came to my mind: what are the other important events which are still fresh in our memory that will be like stories for our upcoming generations? So, I decided to make a small video on some important events in this decade which are notable and really influence the world. Although there are hundreds of events which happen in sports, politics, and society, but I decided to restrict myself to those which really impacted people at large. Let's see what are those events. This one really tops the list. On 2nd May 2011, US Special Forces Navy SEAL was flying from Afghanistan to Pakistan's Abbottabad for a special operation. This was named as Operation Neptune Spear to eliminate the most wanted terrorist in the world. Although this operation took months of planning, but actual mission took just 40 minutes to complete. Only a few senior officials and President Obama knew about this secret mission. And finally, the world could hear the most awaited news: Laden was killed. We still remember those horrifying pictures and videos emerged in news and social media in early part of decade. This was about world's most brutal terrorist group. Yes, you guessed it right, ISIS. This is the biggest story of the decade, honestly. And this was not just a group, but ideology that misled and poisoned many Muslims around the world, and consequences were brutal. This group emerged from remains of Al Qaeda in Iraq in 2011 after years of obscurity. ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi announced the formation of caliphate stretching from Aleppo in Syria to Diyala of Iraq. He renamed the group as Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Very soon, Aleppo, Raqqa, Mosul, Tikrit became stronghold of ISIS. ISIS claimed the responsibility of over 140 terrorist attacks in 29 countries outside Syria and Iraq, including Turkey, Russia, France, Germany, Australia, Canada, and Yemen. Finally, Syrian Democratic Forces, backed by US, took over all key positions and regained the territory from the terrorist group. US forces eliminated Baghdadi in 2019. This was the biggest blow needed for fall of ISIS. Boko Haram is a terrorist organization based in northeastern Nigeria and also active in Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. It is founded on the principle of Sharia law and wants to establish Islamic State in Nigeria. This group was founded in 2002 as a religious group, but gradually emerged world's deadliest terrorist group in this decade under its leader Abu Bakr Sheikhu. They hit the major headlines across the world when this group kidnapped 276 schoolgirls in Chibok in April 2014 and brutally continued against the people. There is an estimate over 30,000 people were killed in various attacks and over 2.3 million people displaced from northeast Nigeria to avoid the violence in the decade. Nigerian army trying their best to eliminate the group, but this battle still continues. This decade was marked with series of anti-government protests, armed rebellion, and political uncertainty in the region, which became a full-fledged crisis for common people of Middle East. Year 2010 started a wave of protests in several Arab countries, which is termed as Arab Spring, in response to oppressive regimes, low standard of living, and empathy of rulers. This started in Tunisia with the death of a vegetable vendor who set himself on fire in front of governor's office when local authority refused to hear his complaint of harassment. Very soon he became the symbol of resilience against government regime, which was marked with corruption and lack of empathy for common people. People protest started in the country, and Tunisian President Zine El Abidine has to flee to Saudi Arabia. Through social media, this uprising spread in neighboring countries including Egypt, Yemen, Libya, and Syria, and their state has to resign. mainly. Very soon, this turned into armed rebellion. This further complicated by foreign intervention and involvement of several groups. All this unrest gave birth to one of the major humanitarian crises in the world after World War II. This decade has seen one of the biggest refugee crises in Europe and around the world. And as per United Nations Refugee Agency, 79.5 million people have been forcibly displaced. Out of that, about 26 million people worldwide have fled to other countries as refugees. And there are a complicated mix of factors which are the reasons for this crisis. Some of them are like armed conflict, civil war in Middle East, rise of ISIS, and the continued persecution of religious minority around the world like Rohingyas in Myanmar, Hindus in Pakistan, Christians in Central African Republic. Brexit. This term is referred to withdrawal of UK from EU, which was followed by a UK-wide referendum in June 2016. The referendum was like 52% people voted to leave the EU, 48% people voted to remain in the EU. And after several deadlocks, finally UK left EU at 11 pm 31st January 2020. David Cameron, who had campaigned to remain in EU, resigned after the result. There is a divided opinion among people about Brexit's impact on UK, but the future will tell what the real story is. North Korea has been conducting a series of nuclear tests since 2006, and this decade was not different. North Korea officially reported a successful underground nuclear test in 2013 and didn't stop here, and continued to conduct tests in 2016 and 17. UN Security Council has passed many resolutions criticizing North Korea's nuclear activity and imposed harsh restrictions on its military and economy. There were several sanctions. Even after this special meeting with Kim and Trump and South Korean President Moon Jae-in, doesn't look like North Korea is ready to give up its nuclear program. Iran has been in headlines in this decade too for its nuclear program and fetching different sanctions. Iran nuclear program is as old as 1950 under Shah of Iran. An interesting fact is, initially US provided technical assistance to Iran. Later on, it was accused that it is non-peaceful and deadly. Since then, Iran expanded its program, signed various agreements time to time with IAEA and World Power, and guess what? All collapsed. Tension escalated when a US drone strike in Iraq killed an Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, and Iran responded with missile strike in Iraq base. Politics always had its right wing and left wing, but this decade has seen the rise of right-wing powers in the politics like never before. BJP had its landslide victory in 2 consecutive elections in India. Donald Trump came to power in US holding his conservative and controversial views. In 2017, the far-right Alternative for Germany entered the federal parliament for the first time. In Sweden Democrats' right-wing party first time entered the parliament after 2010 general election. Similarly, other parts of the world witnessed the rise of right-wing parties in the politics. Not everything was dark and gloomy. This decade had its share of happiness too. This decade has shown the power of social media and people's movement to change the status quo for good. People helped each other in the crisis and humanity lived.